Good morning. Hi everybody. So today I'm going to do a wholemeal croissant, and I just want to show you here. The thermometer is telling me that it is 10.6 degrees. Okay, the butter is 10.6. And I'm just going to get the dough component now. Leave that there. So here's the dough component. I've been chilling it between some blankets and it is at 5 degrees. So the important thing is, if you look, the dough is flexible. The butter is flexible, okay? That is so important. So I'm just going to make it up using a 3 lock-in. So essentially I'm just going to leave the ends exposed, as you can see there. Just going to bring these into the center. These ends here as well. So this wholemeal croissant recipe, well, it has some white flour, spelt. I also have some rye in there to give it a little bit of flavor, some sourdough for extensibility. And the most important thing I'm going to do then again is I'm just going to get a knife. I'm going to cut the edges. And what that does, it just releases the tension, the elastic recoil. So I'm cutting all the way through so that you expose the butter. You can see it there. You can actually see there's a nice bit of fermentation going on here. Let's see if we can zoom in on it. Okay. So I've cut these ends. I'm just going to flatten it through the pastry bread. So I get a lot of people asking me questions about what happens if it misshapes. Okay, so that's easy. You be the boss. So literally just push it back in with your hands initially. So the other thing you'll notice here is it actually curves on both ends. So now I'm going to put it running in the correct direction. I'm just going to roll it out a little bit. Keep it straight, keep on top of it. So you can see I use very little flour in the process. And I'm only just rubbing the flour into the pastry to stop it from sticking. So because this is the lock-in stage, I want to make sure that the butter is very well incorporated. So I'm going to go down as far as 4 millimeters. So one more turn through the machine should do that. What that does is it ensures that all of the dough and the butter have been mixed properly. So I'm just going to draw your attention to the ends here, because some people have a big problem with this. So if you get this kind of an effect, you can see there's a lot of dough there. Butter hasn't really gone through it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to nip it with the cutters. I'm just going to leave that to one side and keep it. I'm just going to elongate the pastry out here now. So if you can see here, I've just cut it. I have a nice straight edge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the rest of the dough, the rest of the pastry up, and just brush it, make sure that there's no flour on the inside of it. And I'm just going to bring this end to meet the other side there. So you can see earlier I cut this little section out. So I'm just going to bring you up here now. I cut this section out here, and this is the natural shape of the dough after it finished its first turn. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fill in the gap here, okay, with the pastry. You can see that. Just fill it in. Same here. Okay. No big mystery there. And the thing about doing it like this is you're eliminating all wastage, okay? So there's no waste from the pastry. You're incorporating all the cuttings. Okay, so our wholemeal croissant pastry is ready. So as you can see, I've just put a very small amount of dusting flour on the pastry, and I've rubbed the pastry to remove any tackiness, so it's actually not sticky at all. The cut edges are on the outside, they're facing my stomach, okay, and it's roughly 30 centimeters wide. So I'm just going to reduce that down. It was at 12, so I'm going to reduce that down to 4. I'm just going to check the stickiness. It's still nice and cold. Just give you a temperature read now. Okay, it's 6.9. So it's nice and pliable. So you can see that it's just starting to rise a little bit. So again, I'm just going to give it this tiniest little dust of flour and rub it in. Okay, and then I'm going to flip it over and do the same on the bottom so it doesn't get stuck on the rollers. So don't worry, you can brush that off again. Just important if you're using a pastry brick that the pastry doesn't stick at any stage, because you will destroy your pastry. And then the final thing we need to do is we need to just roll it up. So a really nice way of doing this is just to present the pastry like that on the rolling pin. Just low and just roll it up. So here we have the croissant pastry, 4 millimeters thick, and I'm going to form the croissants out of it now. So wholemeal croissants continued. I'm just bringing you down onto the table level. You can see the table. I'm going to cut these guys 10 centimeters across by about 32 long. So I'm just marking the pastry, and then I'm just going to imagine a line, an invisible line coming down to here, okay, which is the halfway point of the triangle, and I'm just going to mark with the pastry wheels. Okay, so I can put them away. And then using the long French knife which I have here, I'm going to cut just nice straight line down. So you can see I'm actually cutting rather than tearing the pastry. That's important. If you strain the pastry and stress it, what happens is when it's being proofed, you will see it starts to tear across the surface, across the lines. So it's very important that you keep it nice and straight. So you can see that rocking motion I'm using with the blade. So rock, cut, rock. There you go. And these are the last 2 or 3 here. So just bring it to the point and then bring it straight down. See it here again. So I'm just cutting along where I've marked it. So it gives a nice clean cut. And again, you never use a serrated blade ever when you're making croissants. You always just use like a large French knife like I have here. So again, just to eliminate wastage, I've cut, that's roughly all the wastage that I've left. You can make those up as mini croissants, or you can put them aside and you can incorporate it into your pastry at a later stage. So I'm just going to bring the camera into overhead view, and I'll push the overhead view so that you can see me making the croissants. But first, I'm just going to roll them out just a little bit. So some people like to cut them, but another way you can do it is just roll the ends like that. See? I'll just do 2 more. You can put 2, you can put one on top of the other, actually. I'll leave those to one side. So again, starting in the middle, I'm just going to roll. And I have the rolling pin at an angle. Okay, I have it just at a little angle to just create that little angled effect. There we go. Okay, so we're back in tabletop view. So I just want to show you the effect different things can have on your croissant. So these triangles are just cut. I haven't extended or elongated the side, or I haven't cut them. Now, I suppose what we can do is we can cut one of these just to show you. So traditionally you cut them about 1 centimeter and then you move it out. So it looks like the Eiffel Tower. And then you extend these guys over. See there, you just push them out. I'm doing this very slowly so you can see it. So basically, by doing that, you're actually forming the foot of the croissant. You see that there? You're just making the foot quite long, and you can roll it out another bit to get it longer and wider if you want. And then you just get this nice croissant, typical croissant shape. Okay, so that's the effect of widening the triangle. The other thing is the length of the triangle determines how many shoulders. So we've 1, 2, 3, 4. We've 5 shoulders on this isosceles triangle, and it's around 32 by 10. So this one I just rolled it out with the rolling pin. So I'm just going to just roll that in there, okay, to make a wide little foot. I'm going to stretch this one out actually a little bit just to show you the difference and see how many shoulders we get. So basically the longer your triangle, theoretically the more. So we've 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've actually got 6 shoulders on that. The pastry is a little bit thinner because I've stretched it out. So this is a croissant where we're actually not going to stretch the triangle, and we're not really going to do much except roll it up. So I'm just going over and back here, and then I just gently roll it up. So you can see I haven't stretched that one, and I'm getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's quite thick and bulky, as you can see. This one is more slender, and the shoulders are near each other. So I'll just leave those to one side. They're the 3 examples. So just very quickly then. So I'm just going over and back, over and back. And with these 2 little fingers here, just the one beside your ring finger, I'm actually angling my hands. I'm turning my hand at an angle. So instead of being like this, it's actually curved inward, and it's just to create a little bit of a droop on this side here. See? Just exaggerated there. If I take those fingers out, I'm going over and back there. Then we just roll up, up, up. So you can see I'm not actually handling the pastry at all. So with these type of, if you find that the croissant is not stable, just give it a little pat down, okay? And that way it'll proof and it'll be stable, and it will stop it from falling over on one side or the other. So we do it again, just straighten it out. So I'm just going over and back, over and back. And you see when I start rolling here, I'm just rolling it using the outside. And the last one here. So these are just the ones that I cut. I haven't actually elongated or chopped them to make the foot any wider or bigger. I'll put that to one side. So these guys, these have all been widened, if you like. I'm just going to start here again. You can see already how wide the foot is. Okay, just to give you a comparison. You can see there, that's the size. It's almost a centimeter, 2 centimeters shorter. More uniform shape. And the other thing is, normally, traditionally, would curve those little feet in like that to give the typical croissant shape. So these other ones here, we try to have the thinnest part of the croissant at the beginning and the thickest part out at the end. And again, many different bakers have, our pastry chefs, they all have different ways of doing this, but I find that if your dough isn't elastic, don't stretch it, okay? Or if it's hard, if you've had it in the freezer and it's tough, it's frozen solid, you know, if you're leaving them in there to chill, wait until the croissant softens, okay? The croissant dough should soften quite a lot before you start to roll it or stretch it, because otherwise you'll damage the structure of it and it'll tear on the outside during proof. So you can see how gently I'm just rolling that up. You get a really nice even shape. So the last one for this lesson. Just move that up there now. And again, I'm just rolling that up. Very, very neat. Gentle. No stress, no strain. So I'll just bring them all back into the camera now till you see the different ones. So these were all just the straight ones. Okay, we didn't elongate the feet. These ones we did. In fact, this one I think I cut with the knife. You can just see the differences, the variance. This is one with the legs bent, as you can see. This is the final straight one. Right, so I'm going to put these into the prover and we'll see how they turn out. So I just want to talk a little bit about traying up as well. Putting your croissants on a tray. And most of the people watching this will be, I would say, domestic bakers, probably a few professional bakers. So professional bakers, we use big trays, we have lots of room to spread things out. So in the domestic situation, you're going to end up with a small tray that's going to go into a regular convection fan oven. So what I'm going to do is I just have them on parchment paper for now, because I do have a small prover that I'll be putting these into, and the trays going to my oven are just a tiny bit long, so I will literally just slide these off. So when you're putting your croissants down, so I'm going to start with the ones that were just rolled. Okay, they weren't stretched and they weren't cut. Just put them down, make sure the tip is underneath. And don't have them too close, so you stagger them, so you don't have them up on top of each other, and you present them nice and neatly on the tray, just in such a way that they're not going to batch. Okay, you don't want them touching each other, or batching as it's called. In Ireland we make batch bread, and it's actually desirable. So we're just going to put those guys there. Okay, so you can see that I'm maximizing the space in my tray, but at the same time I'm just making sure that there's adequate room for these to expand. So they're going to almost double by the time they finish proving. So that's how they're laid out. So the croissants with the longer foot, you can bake them straight if you wish, or you can bake them, you can turn in the ends, which is more traditional style. Okay, so you can do that there. And again, just be sure to space them out pretty well so that they're not going to batch. These ones here, some people like to push, see the way I just push the lens in there like that. One of the other things I've shown you before with regard to a croissant is when you make a croissant, when you open it up, it should just unfurl nice and gently. Okay, it shouldn't be tight. So I'm just going to roll that guy back up again, and I'm just going to take the nose and I'm just going to touch it there. I'm going to allow the croissant to prove into that point. See it there? So as the croissant is proving, it actually starts to get wider and also get higher. So what's going to happen here is this is going to push, it's going to try and unfurl as well with a little bit of tension, and the rest of the croissant is going to push into the space here, and it should hopefully just show you a different angle. It won't unfurl as much, and it won't tear. And then this little baby one is just all that was left out of the cuttings. So that'll be the first sample I get to taste of this wholemeal croissant. Well, actually, when I say it's wholemeal, there's wholemeal, there is some white flour in it, but I also have some wholemeal spelt and I have some wholemeal rye. Okay, so now that the croissants are proved, being wholemeal, they took less than 2.5 hours. They actually proved in just under 2 hours. So you can see that they've actually doubled in size, and we're checking the Baywatch shake here. You can see that they jiggle really well, like jelly. The other thing that we need to check here, we need to just look very carefully. So go down here at the sides, and you can just see the layers. Okay, they're just starting to separate out. They become this size a bit more light. There you go. Just see it's just starting to open out. They're looking really good. So I'm going to egg wash them and bake them. Must say very pleased with them. So we're just looking here at the croissant, the wholemeal one that I left the gap or the space, the nose, and you can see that the croissant is actually proved out to fill in the gap. So it unfurls as it proves, and you can see how it's pushed out and it's taking in the space that was available there right out of the tip.